Okay, I've just made a breakthrough on the LG C1, so we've got to compare the A95L to the LG C1 again. So to the left, we've got the Sony A95L. To the right, we have the LG C1. And get ready, because this is probably going to be one of the more impressive, more mind-blowing comparisons you ever see in your life. The first thing I want to draw your attention to in this comparison is the luminosity of skin tones when lighting conditions get a little darker, right? Or there's more shadows. This is incredible because before LG, again, wouldn't look anywhere near as good as it is right here. And it edged out the Sony. Now, this is a big, big deal because Sony this year is just a dream when we talk about, again, those low lit scenes and really illuminating faces to give you a good kick, where the LG C1 to the right is doing it way, way better post the brand new settings that I just created. And I'm blown away by how just much this TV has been able to hold its own, but also be able to surpass Sony in other areas like this. The other thing that I was able to do is get the colors specifically, the reds and all the other primary colors in general. Purple was a really cool one, getting it a lot warmer so that it looks a lot better. I mean, they were already close before, but I got it to a point where it's so much closer now that you just couldn't deny it even if you wanted to. I mean, I am seeing so much more clarity, though, on the LG C1 with this new setting, where every little detail in the church I'm able to make out, where I can see detail in the Sony, but nowhere near the level as on the LG. The LG is leagues, and I mean this, leagues clearer than what we have on the Sony in terms of just that raw sharpness, clarity, and detail. It truly is like a crystal. That is the way that I describe like the purest, richest form of picture quality. It's literally just like crystal clear. Like there's no other way to say it. It's truly like you are being warped through the television into this fantasy world versus, again, what Sony looks like by comparison, which it still does have a crystal look to it, but just like a smudgy crystal that needs to be polished in comparison to what LG is pulling off here. We're talking about a TV from 2021, folks. Like, this is just blowing me back because I've had this TV this entire time, but it's when you reevaluate things, and again, when you compare it against something like the A95L and you reference match, that's the key here. You're reference matching to something that's brand new, and you then create a new standard, if you will, or a new way of calibration, which it's blowing my mind right now. Again, if we look at this example, we can see that the LG C1 on the right is keeping up with the Sony A95K to the left in terms of the luminosity and the throw of pretty much every single color that exists. But I also want you to pay attention to just the tack sharp clarity of the LG C1, to where you can see every little ray of light and every detail, much like you can on the Sony A95L. It truly is impressive, and it's to the point where it's just like, what the hell? I mean, just look at the freaking detail coming off of the building here on the LG C1, and then compare that to the Sony A95L. They are both looking incredible, but can we please just take a minute to appreciate the fact that the LG C1 is doing what the Sony A95L is doing? Like, this is like mind-blowing stuff. Again, we're talking about from the processing perspective, where everyone just assumes Sony is just going to come out ahead and they're king and that's it, point blank period, blah, blah, blah. We've heard this before, but that's not the case as you're seeing here. And this is why I say you never, ever, ever use those reference standards, because this does not happen. Like, the image you're looking at on this LG is just not possible with reference standards. I mean, here's another example of just incredible contrast. And in this example, particular example anyway, we have way more contrast on the LG C1 than what we have on the Sony A95L, where, again, Sony, because they're brightening things up a little bit more, at least from a highlight perspective, they're losing that extra detail in almost like the glare from the sun, where the LG C1 is not struggling from that in the least, and it's holding way more clarity. Then if we look at this image, again, the Sony is going to be the brighter TV. No one's able to dispute that. But what I've been able to do as far as getting the orange and like very key colors to be virtually identical is just like, come on, like, you can't with this. Like, This was such a breakthrough, and I'm like so pleased to see like just how well LG is holding its own, and it's still maintaining a very strong highlight to, yeah, no, it's not as bright as the Sony, but it's pretty freaking close. It's mostly right there. I mean, looking at this image, again, more of the same thing, it becomes very clear that, like, again, Sony has the brighter sun in the sky, but the colors are all going to the LG C1 in this example. I mean, every little shade of color is going to the LG C1. This is a massive, 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 massive win for every single LG C1 owner out there, because now you're able to see that your TV not only is holding its own, but it's beating something that is $2,000 more than what you paid for your LG C1, more than likely, if you have the 55-inch. And we're looking at even like just the little lamp posts, the hues, the shadow detail, the dynamic range alone. I mean, if we're really looking at it, Sony, again, has the better glow of the buildings in the background, way better. But it's the dynamic range where you can see the buildings and it looks like nighttime, like the sun is going down. This looks more true to life. Now, that's not to say that LG is just holding its own in every single area. As we can see, the dinosaur has more warmth and it has more realistic color to the skin on the Jurassic Park movie here, but again, or Jurassic World movie. But again, if you look at the fire in the background, the LG C1 is right there with the Sony. They are virtually twins. The volcano in the background looks better on the Sony. The foreground and background detail looks better on the Sony. So again, there are examples where the Sony's going to pull ahead. This image is a total win for the Sony. So again, don't hear this and think like every example is just going to be a win for the LG, because obviously not. Sony has done some wonderful things this year. However, what LG is doing, even still to this day, to be able to hold its own like this is just incredible. Looking at both the A95L to the left and the LG C1 to the right, in this particular image looks just super identical. And this is huge considering, like, again, we're talking about the luminosity throw and the lower lit scenes. The LG is keeping up with it. And that wasn't the case before, where Sony would have just so much more of a stronger highlight in these examples. LG, this is not an EVO panel. This is just the regular C1. It's keeping up. And again, this is the result of the new settings that I just created, which is just, it's blowing my mind right now. I'm trying to just grab my bearings because of how impressive this truly looks. And again, it's just, it just gets better. I mean, like, we have this example, again, another example. Sony, you can see, pulls ahead in the brightness area. However, again, LG is keeping up right there. And you can see the background is just way more visible on the LG right here, where there's just a little bit more in the way of brightness. And this is pretty much on par with this, except this is a little bit brighter. So they kind of trade spaces a little bit. This is brighter on LG, this not so much. This is brighter on Sony, this not so much on LG, but you have all the detail and dynamic range in the world on the LG. And that's where this is starting to get like just crazy competitive, super impressive. I mean, look at this image right now. I mean, really look at it. They're both really rocking and rolling here. This is honestly one of my favorite parts in Pacific Rim because it shows so much color and detail. And just look at what's happening on the LG C1, if you would. I mean, like, what the hell? The colors are just popping so much harder than they are on the QD OLED right now with the A95L. And again, this isn't a knock on Sony. This is like just truly a testament to like LG really being pretty incredible and still having a champion of a TV. And I told everyone back then, buy this TV because this TV really is going to hold its own for years to come, and you're seeing it. I mean, it doesn't get any more proof in the pudding than watching it year after year still be relevant, still be amazing, still go up against TVs that are 3 times its price point, right? Like, it's 1/3 the price point of these TVs, like, and it's still winning a lot of like examples. Like, it just, I am blown back by this comparison right now. Look at this example. I mean, like, seriously, look at this example. And you look at it and you can see that just all the color in the world is on the LG, but not just the color. The black levels are just richer on the LG C1, and the Sony, again, looking a little bit more hazy. They're trying to get a lot more of the dust particles, the smoke from the ambient environment, which is diluting the color because it's messing things up, where, again, LG's not doing that. They're just giving you the image as it's supposed to be, and it looks great. Again, this was not what it was doing before, right? I understand, like, It wasn't hitting like this before. New settings make a huge difference, and look at the luminosity level. This is huge. This is probably one of the biggest things to point out. Like luminosity wise, look at this highlight right here on his face. Look at it on the LG or on the Sony A95L. The LG is way brighter there, and then everything is just brighter, and it's just way more uniform. It makes way more sense. You got a Jaeger walking through the city? No problem. The LG C1 is going to be right there with equivalent color. Look at the purple. Look at the purple. Look at the QD OLED purple. Look at the red and the blue in the background here, and then look at it on the Sony. The red is stronger on the LG now. Like, red is such a problem color on LG, and to be able to get red in any example to be stronger or equivalent is like a massive achievement. Now, on Sony's side, they have these wonderful highlights here on the street, and LG is a little bit more muted by comparison because, again, this isn't the Evo model. But again, look at how close we are now. In this example, the color exceeds anything that we have on the Sony in terms of ambient light throw or casting. So if we look on the armor, there's way more pure red, rich red coming off of this sign right here, where on Sony, it's bright. Yes, it's bright, wonderful. That's brighter, it's brighter. But that's really all. The only benefit right now is that it's brighter. We've got it to a point where the only thing the A95K now can offer over the LG C1 is the extra kick in brightness, which really, comparatively, isn't really that big of a deal because we still have ultra bright highlights, really nice bright highlights like this one down here at the bottom, comparative to the one right here. I mean, it's holding its own in a way where I can't sit here and justify like any upgrade from a C1 to the Sony A95L, like not on any planet. I mean, if I'm crazy, but like, I know you guys see this. Like, the colors are just hitting way too similarly. And yes, Sony does have some strong examples of color, but at a glance, they just, again, look way too similar. And, you know, there are people that will complain. Nobody cares. But the reality is that this TV is still capable of far more than even where it was just even a day ago, which, again, put some serious time into it. Reference matching, you're going to get some crazy results. Now, I can't stress the contrast and the clarity difference from the prior settings to this one. So if you pay close attention and you're looking at what we have on the LG C1, I mean, it's very clear. Like, the clarity is just through the roof, and you are able to see more detail than what we have on the Sony. See, if you look on the LG, you can see really, really sharp contrast lines here, where on the Sony, on the floor here, it's not quite as sharp as what we have over here. Now, the center focal length is very sharp on the Sony, but it is also on the LG. They're equivalent in that regard. The contrast here on the character or the main person, the subject, looks way better. The contrast on the walls here just look way better on the LG C1, where the Sony, again, not by comparison, looking as strong. This is just incredible. Like, the ceiling, for example, like the pink throw casting on the ceiling looks way better than it does on the Sony. And again, the Sony in the background, you can't really make out this detail. This is kind of blown out because there's a highlight down here and they're over brightening it, where here on the LG, you can make out every little detail, even though there's a highlight there. It's these little nuanced details that make a massive difference when we're talking about which TV to buy. And looking at it, it's just, again, I got the color red to look so close to what we have on a Sony A95L. I mean, I know you see the way that the red is casting in this scene. And then we have little benefits, right? Like the clarity. The clarity is higher and sharper on the LG C1. We have the building hues in the back that are way better than what we have on Sony, right? The casting here on the wall with the ambient light that gives you that three-dimensional look, where on the Sony, it's a little bit more 2D by comparison. Little things like that adding up. And then, of course, we have this little cube here where, again, the highlight is every bit as wonderful as we have on the Sony A95L. Every bit as bright too. I mean, if we look at this right here, it's every bit as bright as that. We have the highlight on the floor here, the reflection off of the car, same. The ambient practical lighting, the background, they look the same. The only difference is there's better dynamic range and a higher level of sharpness on the LG C1. So all things considered, I think the LG C1 deserves way more credit than anybody is prepared to give it. I mean, look at this image right here, the amount of detail coming off of it. It gets to a point where things just look ridiculous. And both TVs are very competent The Sony is brighter by comparison, and overall we'll have the stronger representation of red, but what I've been able to accomplish with these latest settings is nothing short of exceptional, pushing the LG C1 to an entirely new stratosphere that it wasn't at before, to now we are safely and comfortably able to say this is absolutely the realm of Quantum Dot OLED, where it is maintaining and holding its own in a way I've never seen this TV look. Like in the years that I've owned this damn thing, I've never seen it go beyond the threshold of just a WOLED and cross over into the domain of Quantum Dot OLED looks, and that's what the new settings will do. So if you aren't already a member and you own a C1, trust me on this one, do yourself the biggest justice and grab the settings that I'm about to post after this video and see what the fuss is all about, because I'm telling you it's going to be incredible. But also, as a comparison, just kind of doing a round two with this, I am seriously shocked that the colors are just so much better, and every way it's keeping up with just what's said to be the king of everything. So if anything, this should show you that, again, newer isn't always better. And even though you're going to have a bunch of reporters saying that one TV is the king of everything, and you still have a champion of champions, okay, in the LG C1. And that is not going to change anytime soon. But that being said, I'd love to know what you guys thought about this comparison in the comments down below. I'm blown away. I'm pretty shocked. Did not expect to have a breakthrough like this. Again, I always work on these TVs, and I tell everybody, especially if I own the television, for the life of the product, I'm going to support it. And little updates like this happen, little breakthroughs like this happen, and it's like Christmas, which is funny because that happens next month. So Christmas came early for everybody, but geez, I'm so excited. I'm so happy. I've got to like rewatch a bunch of stuff all over again. I was watching One Piece, as I showed you at the beginning of this, and like that clash between Kaido and Luffy, like forget it. You know what? I'm probably gonna end the video by just kind of like showing you a little bit, not a whole lot, but yeah, it's incredible. I mean, come on. I know you guys see the difference between these two displays. I mean, look at how rich the red is looking right now. Look at that. Look at the green. Look at all the colors in the background, the browns. Everything is just so much richer. The face, everything. It's just, the A95L is getting embodied in certain examples as well. So again, that's just one of the biggest benefits too of these latest settings, to where and again, look at how 3D this is. Like, it's very three-dimensional. Every character, it draws you in, and that's the big thing here. Just look at how ridiculous this highlight is on the LG C1. And the colors, and how identical they are. Just absolutely magnificent. Like, I can't with this. Like, this is not even what the C1 was ever looking like for this. And I'm a massive One Piece fan, and it retains that highlight so well. Again, the Sony A95L is brighter, but the LG C1, by comparison, as I look at it, it's not like, oh my God, it's so much dimmer. And the contrast that is kicking off of Kaido, as I see like every little bit of like the light rays shining off, where Sony, it's a little bit more muted. Where on the LG, it's just way more pronounced. And every little line, honestly, is just way more pronounced. And I see every little color and every little detail just way better than I can on the Sony, which, again, you wouldn't expect because Sony's rocking the XR cognitive processor, but this C1 is just doing something just truly magnificent. So yeah, seriously, snag these settings if you guys want to see what I'm seeing here. I'm blown away. Can't wait to continue watching One Piece. Probably going to do it after this. But that being said, again, I just want to hear what you guys have to say in the comments down below. And as always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching the #1 brand in honesty. And until the next video, I'll see you guys later.